George, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to attend my podcast, Becoming Secure with Magsmindset. I'm so happy to have you. I was immediately intrigued by your profile because, like I told you already, your profile is so far away from what I commonly read about when it comes to what people have experienced in their lives. And I, of course, want you to share what your journey looked like from being born in Bulgaria and ending up in the UK, where you have worked with a lot of people that are minorities.
The people I'm working with right now, they are convicted criminals. Some of them have just come out of prison, or some of them are on probation.
Thank you so much for being here and welcome to the show. I would love it if you could just start to explain a little bit from the beginning, essentially, what it is that you're working with and what you're passionate with, and what you spend most of your time doing right now.
So I guess I'm passionate about humanity, like restoring, inner restoration of humanity, but I'm mostly tilted towards working with men because I know more things about men, the way men tend to function. And I know it's a generalization, but that's where I've been led, I feel, partly because of my own journey. But at the moment, I'm the closest in the last 1.5 years, I've been the closest I've ever been to really loving what I do. Because I used to have a coaching business, doing coaching online on Zoom. That was good, but it wasn't enough. And let's face it, one-to-one, it was exhausting. Now we're in groups for the government, for the Ministry of Justice, with men who are convicted of domestic violence / violence, general violence, and or there's another group, totally different cohort, we don't mix them, with sex offenders. And so I work with both, and I'm privileged to be sitting in a group with 10 or 12 or 8 men that some of them are very open to change. And that's what I do, basically.
Right. So what it sounds like to me is that you have kind of found this path where you actually get to help people who are already in a really difficult situation, and then to also experience that people are willing to receive that help in order to get better. I mean, to have that influence must be so rewarding in so many ways. So what is it that prompted you to getting into this type of work to begin with?
I guess I was looking for a job because I was doing my coaching business about 1.5 years ago, and but the income just wasn't enough. And I was thinking, I need something, but what would it be?
Right.
I was dreading to just go and get a regular job because I hadn't done that in a long time, and I didn't want to kill my heart. I didn't want to kill my passion. I was thinking, I'll just try and see what's the closest that I could get. And when I saw with the Ministry of Justice, when I saw rehabilitation, I said, let's give that a try. And here I am. It's been a wild ride.
I did. So I hope that you're okay talking about this, and let me know to what extent, if any,
Sure.
you're not. But I did see in your profile that you were also speaking to healing the father wound, or how the father wound stays with the child, or especially men, for so long. And I was really curious to hear your side of that, because I've kind of had my own journey of healing my relational wound to my father, and I've kind of had this daughter narrative to it. So I've never really imagined the son so much. And I have 2 older brothers, and I wonder to what extent I could recognize some of the way that you're feeling in some of their behavior. So I would love to kind of learn what that journey have looked like for you.
It's such a great topic, and it's a very complex journey because everyone responds to the father wound in a different way. Men typically, and again, we need to generalize. That generalization is shallow, but you need to start in the shallow to go deeper. But otherwise, we're not doing anything. And so men typically tend to go 2 ways as a response. And I believe everyone has a father wound because no father is perfect. Men typically tend to go 2 ways. One, personality is like, okay, my father is weak. He left me. He's passive. I will not be like that. I will be strong and tough and all that. Another one, it's like, okay, my father was overbearing. He was strong. He was tough, but he never really loved me. So I was scared of him. And that was a little bit me. And I guess I had a bit of both ways, but that's the second one relates to me a little bit more. And so men very often are driven in life. Behind the personality is the driving force. I believe we're all driven by something sometimes. And I don't mean the good passion. I mean something that doesn't let us rest. And that's today's culture doesn't seem to understand. They talk about drivenness. Are we driven? I don't want to be driven. I want to be led by passion. Drivenness is like someone is putting a gun at the back of your head and walk. That's drivenness. I don't want anyone to drive me. And so very often men are driven by, I will never be like him. My father was a bully. He was a drunkard. He came home and beat us up. I'll be different. But then when you dissociate yourself from something, let's face it, the father and the mother as well, but we're talking about the father now, they give things to us that are in our bodies. And so when we say no to that, subconsciously, of course, how we grow up, it's like, oh, no, none of that, then we're missing out in life.
Right.
And there's another type that it says, I just want to be like him. I, worship him. I emulate him and I try to be, but I can't please him. So there's so many aspects of the father one. And that's why, and let me show you actually quickly, I wrote a whole book. I mean, it's not that thick, but it's like, and this is my dad and that's me.
Oh, that is a lovely photo though, I must say.
Thank you. Yes, my dad is, he is and always will be that big influence in my life. And I never recognized that for a long, long time because a man's masculinity is shaped by the father, whether we like it or not.
Yeah.
The father is how we perceive our own masculinity. And some of us are completely cut off from that because we don't want to be toxic, quote unquote. And others are trying to live up to that standard. I must be a man. I must be a real man like my dad. So both of them, and you can even see that in culture. Like back in the day, it was more like the second type. I must be a man. Be a man. Don't disappoint your father. Like even the terms, the fatherland. Stay true to the fatherland. There was no room for softness, weakness, quote unquote. There was no room for emotions because you had to perform. You had to live up to something. And deep down, well, we knew that there was not enough. But we covered that with alcohol, with cigarettes, with violence, even sometimes, overworking, anything. And we died early and all that. Now, the culture, again, never trust culture because culture shifts and the truth is in the middle. The truth is always everything and nothing. The culture is always like, okay, we used to need men to work, be tough, be strong, fight the war for us. Now it's like, no, now we need everyone to work. Like, and it's like, man, chill out, stay where you are, but don't say no, don't draw boundaries, don't be strong. That's not good anymore. And so again, when you look at both, they're both, I don't blame because many men are bitter with the modern culture because they're like, wow, you can't be a man anymore. I say, yeah, but of course, it's not my fault, it's not your fault, but who is it to blame? This is the backlash against the dark side of men. Because everyone, men, like femininity and masculinity, have a dark side, like a shadow side, like Carl Jung would say, the shadow. So today's movement of pushing against toxicity and violence is just a backlash because women and men as well, but children have suffered the darkness and said that's enough. And of course, we're throwing the baby out of the bathwater, just like back in the day we did with sensitivity. So it's the same thing. Culture hasn't changed at all. It just shifts to its different people groups, almost like to appeal to certain people group, but then leaves other behind, just like women used to be completely left in the margins. They didn't play any role in society apart from just being a nurturer and just a stereotype.
Yeah,
and
it's like be seen, not heard.
Yeah.
Yeah, the same version of it in one way. But so you're touching on so many interesting things there. Then there's so much layers. I can definitely see things that I recognize in what I can also see in my brothers too. I almost wonder if maybe a way that men sometimes see it is that, especially with that overcompensation of like, I'm going to be the complete opposite of that, there is a certain level of avoidance in not looking at the sides that you really do not want to be true about you because you recognize it in something that used to be associated with something painful, such as neglect or not being understood or not being a priority as a child, in favor for something else like sleeping on the couch, just not quality time. So that was one aspect that I kind of recognized through what you were saying. And I wonder if that is kind of a way maybe men are sometimes not deceiving themselves with not welcoming that side that they're trying to push away. But there was also something else that you were talking about that I find incredibly interesting. And that's related to men's instinct and women's instinct and kind of how the dating world looks differently today. I recently stumbled across Alison Armstrong's work. I don't know if you're familiar with her.
The name sounds familiar, yeah.
Yeah, so what she has done is that she's written a lot of content that after studying men for 30 years, she has written and created a lot of literature that is really helpful. And this is not the first time I'm talking about this in a podcast, because for me, it was such a turning point in my life is when I started to see things the way that men actually mean things and not the way women perceive things. And it completely blew my mind just how little I understood about you and how little Essentially, it goes both ways, though. It's true about both of us that, like, men and women are mostly misunderstanding each other because of our innate nature.
Yeah,
But of course, we're also living in a time where social norms look so far-fetched or so far away from that being, and even in topic that it's okay
yeah,
to bring up. And I find it scary to talk about because
yeah.
I'm not saying fuck women or let's stagnate women. I'm saying let's fully dive into
Mm,
understanding each other because we are different and we were supposed to be different. And not to say that there's not nuances of either that are
yeah.
not welcome, but our niche can still be to investigate further in what is relevant to us without that being exclusive for other people, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, yeah. You need to examine the generic, the general that applies to most people.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you exclude the rest, but it means you are examining most. Can
Yes.
ignore most for the sake of few.
I mean, for me, it is, I am a heterosexual woman, and that therefore it is natural for me to want to, first of all, must understand myself and understand my cycle and how my hormones are affecting my mood, and just to be really self aware of how I am showing up in the world. But also, I deem it essential in order to be in a fully committed long term relationship to also be intentional about understanding your partner and recognizing that he does not know what I'm thinking, he does not know what he should be doing,
Yeah.
and there's nothing wrong with him. He's not misbehaving
Yeah.
or or like doing something wrong on purpose. You know what I mean? It's just
Yeah.
a different way of showing up in the world. And the more I started to understand the way that looks through the lens of a man, my anger completely disappeared. All the anger I had towards my dad, all of the
Hmm.
resentment that I had towards my dad. Now I'm able to look at the things that are actually good about him and see them in myself and feel a little pride. I never did that before.
That's wonderful. That means you've done the work because people cannot move past the pain because the pain is inside and they think the pain is you making me feel that. My dad made me feel that. Now I'm stuck with that. No, the pain is in here. Whatever they made you feel, it's inside of you. But it's your
Right.
responsibility now to do the work and eventually forgive. Because
Right.
once you're empty of that toxic emotion, and it took me over a decade to actually even physically feel different because it's on a cell almost like a physical level. Your body feels different when it's full of pain.
Right.
And mine has been, I didn't even know it. And so when I started pouring out gradually, I mean, with
Right.
therapy, counseling, men's groups, retreats, literally I had to go to the mountains a few times to climb mountains with a bunch of men, anything that would help me. Eventually, I started to get light, even physically. I used to be big. I used to lift weights because that was my mask when I was a teenager and then in my 20s. That was my mask because I was full of fear. I feared other men because I feared my dad. I remember being a bouncer in Bulgaria back in my early 19, I think I started. And another bouncer came in and he put his hand on my shoulder and he wanted to show me something on the phone. And I remember because I used to take drugs as well and like drink because I couldn't relax around people. Once I added some, a few lines of coke and I was talking and I was really myself. And but I was sober that day. When that guy put his hand on my shoulder, I froze. And I had always been this way,
Right.
always because of masculine closeness. It was like, what is that? My father never touched me.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so there was a little boy in me that was orphan, alone, isolated, neglected, but also neglected by me as well because I hated him. When I
Right.
was 15, I started thinking, you little worm, grow up and be a man. You can be a man? I'll
Oh,
show you. So that's when I started lifting the weight when I was 15. 5 years later, I had a shaved head. I was getting in trouble. I was getting in huge, not just, I still wasn't strong. I still couldn't stand up for myself because that's my father's scary presence. So any aggression
right.
provoked the fear of my father. But when I had some drugs or drinks, I would get into fights with like five guys, knowing that it's not about fighting. I just want to look crazy. I want to get this reputation so that they leave me alone. And they did kind of. And so that I make my father proud because my father had a dangerous side to him. And so every time when I got in trouble, I got hit with a baseball bat. I got just a risk, completely unnecessary risks. But I did it in order to something was driving me to prove to my dad, see, I've got it. I've got it. And it's so sad. Some of the people I work with now, they're still like that. They still got that.
Yeah.
And it's so sad. It just breaks my heart. That's not just wasted energy, but it's just completely wasted. So much potential is just wasted, either
Right.
locked inside, unfulfilled, or just wasted in violence and prison and all that darkness.
Essentially, what it is that we're neglecting, that we're disliking about this personality trait in someone we kind of relate to as something painful, like in this instance, our father, right? It's like when when we are not addressing those sides too, we are kind of neglecting that part of us and separating from us. And now we're treating ourselves as separate individuals in many ways, because very often it mirrors, it's this mirroring that happens, that when we are triggered by something, it is a connection to something we're feeling about in ourselves. So it's mirroring each other, right?
Yeah.
And I truth be told, a lot of the kind of quote unquote work, as you were saying, like you said, I've done the work. I think a lot of people feel like they've done the work. I feel like a lot of people are kind of seeing all of this content everywhere, or not necessarily finding the voice that speaks to them, because it is not necessarily so front and center right now to be talking about like how men are actually doing and how women are actually doing, and what would it look like if we lean more into our instincts. You know what I mean? It's like not a lot of people are talking about it. So for me, it was just a voice who finally accepted what I wanted to do, which was to lean into like going into a direction of becoming a wife and becoming a mother, and anything that I can do in the home that I actually love and enjoy cooking. I'm not talking about like this whole trad wife things. Like, it's not, I still work. I'm in the workforce, and I love that too. And that's a part of me that I am doing 50% though. I'm not working full time, but nonetheless, like it was a voice that allowed me to just authentically lean into what I actually feel called to do. And it felt like permission, but it is scary though, because of, the time that we're in, and that not everyone is like welcoming the information or what is out there, because there's so many contradicting voices, and that gets confusing.
Yes, the world is crazy. The world has always been a crazy place. If you listen to the world back in the day as a man, you would never shed a tear. You would never be emotional. You wouldn't even, especially back in Bulgaria, I remember someone, it wasn't a man, I think it was someone's grandmother who said that children should only be hugged when they were sleeping or something like that. So everyone has traditions and every society has, so if you follow that blindly, abandoning yourself, thinking, what is it that I'm feeling? What is it where am I going emotionally? Like, what's been shut down? What potential do I need to realize? So if you don't have that and just follow, okay, ask the world to tell me how to behave. I'm not saying rules are bad. I'm not saying there are no good things and bad things. But when you have nothing and you allow the world to direct all of that, almost like you take on something, almost like something possesses you on the outside. That's a dangerous place to be. So back in the day, you would be just numbing your emotions with drink, or you wouldn't be able to function as a man because it was hard. Even my dad's life, let alone my granddad, was a hard life. So you had to something had to go, something in you. The emotional, the sensual, the beautiful, for the most part, had to, for at least to a point, had to be suppressed so that we can pick up the hammer or the gun or the whatever. And same is now. It's like just different. Now, when you want to be strong and competitive and physical, and it's like, oh, what are you like? Are you a caveman? Are you toxic? And so my solution is never look at the world. The world's just got to have the picture at best. The world's a crazy place, and I'm never going to allow the world to tell me how to be. And yeah.
It does sound like you've also seen some side of the world that are very unforgiving in many other people's eyes of vision. Of course, like coming from, I'm a Christian myself, so I do believe in redemption and forgiveness. So
yeah, me too.
It's really interesting to me to see what kind of work it is that you do when you are working with people who are felons, or people who are convicted or criminals in one way, if it's sexual assault or if it's domestic violence. I mean, those are really serious charges, and people that you work closely with. And when we were off the record, you were mentioning that there is some elements to attachment theory that you teach these individuals too when you're in your projects. I wonder if you could talk a little bit more about what that might look like.
Yes, I do work for the Ministry of Justice in England, in the UK. So there are very few things that I can share because the work is ongoing.
Right.
And it's a government-run program, and it's a wonderful program. It's all about behavior management and making better choices. It's wonderful. And but I can say that within that program, we do have a session devoted to the attachment styles.
Right.
And I find very often with men who are convicted of domestic violence. Now, I thought they were completely different types because, I mean, we've seen the movies, we've seen guys with what do you call that, like a wife beater, white vest,
yes,
and he said, come here and cook for me, things like. I thought this was a typical domestic violence case. Not at all. Most people that I've seen for the last year and a half are just completely normal guys in many ways, but they have a hard time letting go because their mom abandoned them, or they were so closely bonded to their mom that she was everything, and then she died or something like that. So, and also there is something about masculinity that I also talk about in my books. Like every man has to have had this disconnection from the mother at some point, has to have been nurtured by mommy, but then when he's 8 or 9 or 10, say, okay, now that's coming. And that's some of the old traditions, they still reenact that. Like there's an African tribe in Nigeria that they still do that. They come when the child is like 10 or 12, old enough to start playing up, and the mom can't handle him. Then one night there's a knock on the door, and all the guys in the village, including the father, led by the father, they're wearing these scary masks, and they take him out and they take him. I'm not saying everything they do is great. I mean, there's a huge deal of abuse, but the pattern is right. Even the word pattern, paternal.
Yeah.
And it's like that pattern is like a man should be nourished by the feminine, but at some point he needs to be taken out because he already has had enough of the feminine. He needs to be taken out and learn how to go without that and join the world of men, the world of his father. And now I'll show you how to fast. I'll show you how to be tough. I'll show you how to hunt, how to dig, whatever it is. That's in the tribal society. Now would be something else. I'll show you how to play sports. I'll just take you with me, maybe fishing or hunting or whatever.
Yeah.
And one of my best friends back in Bulgaria is, I always wondered what made him so strong, because when you look at him, he's got this strong presence. He's not a tough guy. I mean, he's quite tough, but he's a cool teacher. But when you look at him, he's got this strong, clear blue eyes. And I'm thinking, I know what it is now. Because his dad would always take him to the woods, and on the back of his motorcycle, the little boy would be holding on to the father. I remember feeling quite jealous because my dad never did that.
Yeah.
And I was feeling guilty about that because my dad is also a good man. And I'm thinking, I shouldn't be feeling that. But saying to yourself, you shouldn't be feeling that. It's like, but that was me as a child. And seeing my friend going with the father, he had a good nourishment from his mom, but even sometimes to go against the mother's will, the father would come and say, come on, let's go. And the mother said, oh, don't take it. Oh, no, he's coming with me.
Yeah.
And so this guy grew up really strong. Really, he doesn't, there's no fear. He's not cowardly in talking to people and in holding his own. It's like, wow, that's where he got it from. And I believe, like yourself, in human potential. If you see something in someone that you admire, could be physical beauty, because physical beauty doesn't come from outside. There's something inside.
Right.
And if you admire that, it means you have it in you. But very often in this world that doesn't believe in that potential, the world's like, they're just jealous and envious. Oh, you know, so and so, yeah, she's beautiful, but she's, oh,
Yeah.
man, allow you, but allow yourself to long, because the longing will lead you to, I think it was John Eldridge. I don't know if you know John Eldridge. He said, desire reveals design and design reveals destiny. And it's like, we've all got a beautiful inner self.
Right.
And, but with some people, you see it more because of the way they've been raised or what they've been through. So, but to go back into domestic violence, people, it's not at all this tough, terrorizing, strong guys. It's more like little boy who have not really got the capacity to let go of mommy. And now the girlfriend is mommy. And now she wants to leave me. And he knocks on the door or kicks the door down. And then the police is called, and yes, it is domestic violence. I'm not disagreeing with that. Right. But there are many different nuances. And very often it's about letting go. And there's another category as well of domestic violence, is like when it's scary how passive and fearful men are, especially from women. I mean, I work with these huge guys. They're thugs. They really are. You know, I mean, they're very tough. They'll just fight with anyone, even late in their 50s. They're very aggressive. But in a relationship, complete pussycat. Like there's no assertiveness. He cannot say, no, actually, can we not go to that restaurant? Can we go to that? None of that. And he's like, my wife handles the bills. If something goes wrong, she does it. And I'm like, why? Well, because I'm afraid. I don't want to get aggressive. But because he's afraid of his temper and he's afraid of his wife, he bottles it, as they call it here, bottle. It's like he just suppresses it. And then one day, you're not strong enough to always like keep the lid on it. And one day he snaps. And then when he comes to, like, what happened? The police has been called. I think I hurt someone. That's because of your passivity. You're not being strong. You're not being assertive. You're not being outspoken. So
you're
very often
becoming unpredictable.
Yeah, because when you suppress something, when you deny something, it's like, oh, I don't want to be aggressive. It's like you have an aggressive side. And, you know, I've seen miracles happen. I've seen simple tools that we teach them within this government-built program. Try to speak up. Try assertiveness. Next time you go to a restaurant, how about you speak? I'm afraid. What if I get it? Okay, try it. And then, this guy was trying things out, speaking to, especially to his partner, because she was kind of really, he was the he was the felon, he was the perpetrator, she was the victim, but he was terrified of her. Like, it's like, okay, well, you're here because of your wife. You want to make it work with you have to talk to her. If there's something that you don't like, you must talk to her. And so when he started talking, he said, you know what? I actually don't get angry anymore. Oh, what happened to the temper? Oh, I've still got a temper. I said, yeah, but look, you're not feeling angry with her because things are not allowed to fester.
Yeah.
But because men are fearful, we're very fearful, and we miss out on life very often. Even the big strong guys, there's so much fear in us.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's really interesting what manifests fear in a person, you know, and I find it really interesting to see the correlation with the feminine energy too. If they were particularly tied to their maternal figure, then they were more likely to have possessive tendencies in their commitments, and it would just derail into something completely unhealthy, which is a consequence of not looking at your patterns and seeing to what degree they are constructive or whether or not they're helping you in a relationship with another person. So how do you help them become self-aware in those situations?
With my private clients, it's easy because I talk like that. But with the people I work with now, it's basically the material that we teach is all over the walls. We have these flip charts and everything. So most people can't help but become self-aware. And I'm like, well, eventually after a few sessions, they're like, oh, I guess I am this type. I am this, what was the word? I mean, there's so many terms about attachment styles, and maybe your
You're
terminology.
anxious or avoidant, you know, it's either
Yes.
going to be. I mean, typically, if it sounds to me like in this situation, it sounds like the men are the more anxious one in these scenarios where they're latching onto their partner as if it's a mother figure.
Yes.
That is more of an anxious attachment. Whereas I myself was also an anxious individual because I put the amount of men that I could be with, or the amount of men that I could hold on to, not in quantity, but like just making sure that like I was always with someone would be my value, like how my ability to hold a relationship would become my value. And so I also had an anxious attachment to men until I became aware of the term and understanding attachment theory and understanding how recognizing your attachment style is also really helpful to breaking out of it, because where there is like an explanation to explain something, there's also a solution. And
Yeah.
that became crucial for me because then it felt as though there was a welcome to a pathway out of that pattern so that I wouldn't repeat it again.
Yeah, it's wonderfully put. Exactly. Yes. And I always say you need to do the work. I even think anyone who ever does anything to do with people on such a deep level, they should do their own work, because it's very hard to understand people on a deeper level if you don't.
Right. Yeah. To what degree do you involve faith into these sessions? Because I wonder, personally, I know that the only thing that actually brought me out of it was kind of always going back to the promise that I was always worthy of everything that I ever wanted, and tomorrow was already taken care of, and trusting that I'm actually worthy and that I don't have to earn it, because that was also a false narrative that I had to earn it. If only I was good and did good and behaved and was on my most wonderful self, then I would get everything that I wanted, which just wasn't true.
Yeah.
So it's really, yeah, it's interesting how learning about your attachment style will help you create a new pathway, which feels more, yeah, feels more secure, where you're attracting, and also understanding that a huge part of that is believing that it's true, believing that it is taken care of, and believing that, yeah, you have to trust that all the things that are unknown at the moment, it's taken care of, you know.
Yeah.
There's no physical evidence, you just have to have faith. And that's where like my religion comes into play. So is there a lot of talk in religion with you guys, or what are they putting their hope on to move on?
It's very difficult, and there's nothing external. I mean, I don't hold back, but even my faith is very complex. It's not something, okay, well, I'll show you that this is what I live by, take it. And I wish it was, because then it would be easy to give to people, but it's not like that. I mean, my journey of faith started back in 2011 in Zambia, in Africa, but it wasn't like, I keep struggling to explain it, because it wasn't like I was reaching out for God from the sky. It was more like, because I abandoned that weak, quote unquote, that little boy in me. And I believe that was the biggest sin in my life, because, and when we look at the definition of sin, it's like everything that's not out of faith. And
Right.
so when I was 15, I rejected myself. Like it just happened overnight. I was like, I hate you. I hate you. You need to move on. I will grow up without you. I don't want this weak little boy. I want to be a man like my dad. And so when I was in Zambia and this person prayed for me, and I ended up pouring my heart to someone because I was very low. I wanted to kill myself, basically. I was this addiction. I couldn't get married to my girlfriend because I was aware so much of my addictions. I mean, I used to live in nightclubs up until I was 24 and moving with her to England. And then everything, my past life didn't leave me. I moved out of there, but it didn't move out of me. It was all, and so I was very ambivalent in my mind. I was thinking, like, my mind was all over the place. One day I wanted to be together with her. There I was like, well, what's happening? Who am I? Now I don't want to live anymore. So it took me 2 years to really hit rock bottom. And then I ended up talking to this guy who prayed for me in Africa on my last day in that place. And, but it wasn't, I never rejected God, but I thought, well, it's not practical. Who's going to help me? I believe in God, so what? Who's going to help me? I need help. But that moment when he did pray for me, I turned back. And you know, the word repent means like a U-turn.
Right, yeah.
Change your mind about, oh my
Yeah.
goodness, I've been wrong about how I rejected myself.
Yeah.
Not so much I've been wrong about God because I didn't know about God. I'm open to whatever works. But I've been wrong about that little boy and say, God, I'm so sorry. Like, bring him back, bring me back. Whatever you want to do. I want to be, I believe in the, I guess from then I started to believe in the resurrection because I guess I wanted to die. I wanted to kill that little boy. But on that day, he was given back to me. He was resurrected. And it's not like I found God. It was almost like I turned back to who I used to be and God was right there waiting.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I love that. I saw that so clearly. That made me really happy. I mean, that's a really cool way of looking at it. And it's really wholesome because, I mean, a lot of it is that I think that I had a similar realization that, oh, God loves me for exactly who I am. I'm supposed to be like this. Like, there was no like there was no misunderstanding. There was no mistake. Like, it is exactly what it's supposed to be, and I can dive deeply into life knowing that's true because it's the promise, right?
Yeah. And
Now,
from then on, I was aware there's a deeper self. There's more to me than meets the eye. Almost like all the fairy tales have been true. Women want to be beautiful, starting off early, I mean, as girls, and men want to be strong. And later on life saying, no, you're not, no, you can't. And then you move on. But when that moment, that my first awakening, I was like, wow, what else is possible? Everything, all those patterns that have been laid out for humanity, there is something to that. So what else is possible? And that's why I went on a deeper journey. So my faith really was working out. And even in that book, I've got a chapter about meeting God as a father, because one thing is to have faith, totally different thing is to be fathered in your body. I mean, I had this experience. I don't know how many years after that, maybe 2-3 years after, my first spiritual experience. It was a completely different experience. I had an experience where I was fathered, but I had to let go. And that's it. This is in the book. And I had to let go of my father as the idol because all my life I wanted to be like my dad. I wanted to please him. And I knew that I wasn't. So it was like really self-hating and thing. And then I was given this, I had pain. Basically in my life, everything that's good has been a result of pain. So most people, including myself, if there is pain, we shy away from it. Of course, we want to sit down and have a nice meal with my wife. Suddenly there's an argument. So do I want to feel pain? No, I just want to end it. I want, okay, let's move on. But every time when I've had the courage, the grace to say, okay, what is that about? Like, why am I feeling that? And that there was a Christmas Eve one night when I was left alone with my pain. And that's when it started pouring out. And then I said, wow, where is that coming from? What is that? And then I had this huge vision of my dad as a huge giant man, like in front. I'm like, wow. And then silent, quiet whisper, that's the idol.
Yeah.
Like, that's the idol. That's where the pain is. I say, oh, so, okay, what do you want me to do? I need and then I started to be realized, even though I was a big guy, I had a big body, I was 27 or 8, I felt like a little boy who needed that intimacy, that the male, my father's whiskers on my cheek. And I was crying for that. And then I felt this, again, the realization is like a whisper in my ear, see, that need is still there. Are you willing now to give that up, give that longing up? I said, no. So for I was like, no, I don't see who is God, but I see this man. He never loved me. And then the grief came out. Why didn't you love me? Why didn't you love me? And then that actually, this is in the book again, so maybe I'm getting it wrong, but it was like a Bible verse that just floated into my mind saying, by faith, the just shall live by faith. And okay, I renounce that. It's like an idol, isn't it? It's like an idol. I renounce that idol. And then I had a vision of basically a man who was maybe a man in his 40s with well built on a horse, and I knew it wasn't Jesus. It wasn't this religious picture. It was the father that had made me, and I needed. And he hugged me. I mean, it sounds kind of weird, but and I started to cry, and all that longing that I had for my father was actually fulfilled. And people think, okay, well, that's a vision, doesn't mean anything. I tell you what it means. It came on a physical level because, and I tell you exactly what happened. Like literally, the change was like that. I always used to watch this movie Gladiator when it came on the television, and I always used to associate with the evil guy because he was like me. He couldn't sleep well. He was tormented. He was also sexually quite twisted as well, and he knew the longing of a father. And every time before he murdered his father, basically saying, "I would butcher the whole world just for one hug from you, one smile. You never loved me." And then he killed his father. This longing really, he was so poisoned by the father wound. And every time when I watch this, I was feel emotional, especially when I was going through the father wound work, because I'm like, that's me. Literally that night after that experience, we stayed in a friend's house, and he was gone, and it was me and my wife, and he let us stay there for Christmas holidays. And we watched Gladiator, and I watched that movie. I did not feel at all the same. I was like, wow. In my body, I was different. So when people talk about visions, yeah, fine. You can have your visions. You can dispute how real they are, but they have to leave you with something substantial.
Yeah. I genuinely believe in that. It is a physical reaction. You feel it, you experience it, it is true. And nobody can take that away from any of us, and that shift, that weight off the shoulders is real. It's real. It's just gone. It's just gone. And I know this, everyone knows this that are close to me, just because, I mean, it's night and day, just how I talk about it, how I show up in situations where my dad is present. I'm just not bothered anymore. It's incredible.
Yeah.
But it has come with this. Yeah, I had this moment where I was reading those books, and also, mind you, I've been praying for years. And all of a sudden, as if God just told me, this is it, just try it. And then I tried it, it worked, and it has been consistently working ever since. And I just found that, ironically, there's one of the books is called Keys to the Kingdom, and that's exactly what it felt like. I felt like I got the keys to the kingdom, where I could finally see my dad for what he actually was, and not what I deemed him as through the lens of my own understanding, which was coming from lacking, from hurt, from not wanting to see any good that he ever did. I just completely misunderstood his manhood, essentially.
Yeah. And, because of unmet needs, that's how we're set up. We kind of, it's almost like we get poisoned by more and more, and that poison grows, and then everything to do with that need hurts. It's like you have this painful thing in your body. But once the pain is drained away, now I can see clearly. And in my vision, my father shrunk. Instead of this big towering tree, he shrunk, and he went on my right side, not in the center. And then God filled the
side even. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was so cool. And so
that's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's incredible. I love hearing stories like that. I mean, if anyone's ever experienced a lot of pain and really struggled, and there was something that happened that lifted that weight off of you, that is a beautiful success story. I think that's incredible. I really do.
Thank you. Yeah, I've got a few others as well.
Yeah,
but
I mean,
to me, the challenge has been to feel the pain, because I advise for everyone, if you really want your pain to be dealt with, first you need to feel it.
Yeah.
But the first precursor to feeling it is stay away from your addictions. And there are good addictions and bad addictions. Like for some people, going to church it's an addiction. I have to do it. It's something you have to do. Or I noticed right before I'm on the brink of something emotionally, there's the need to maybe eat more or take a drink or just watch television, numb my mind. I'm like, wow, okay, why is this need suddenly so strong? And then if I manage to say no to that, I say, okay, well, things are happening under the surface. Okay. And still, nothing gets solved like that. But eventually, when you stay with the pain, it's like, wow, now I'm meeting like the deep, dark hole that now can be filled. But if you don't meet it, if it's like like festering, almost like a sewer water running inside. You put a lid on it, it's like, I'm not aware exactly, I just want to eat more. Or even good things, like you want to make love to your partner or something like that. It's like, it's not about the thing itself, it's about why the compulsion.
Right.
Like,
Yeah. Why the
cover up pain,
what
that's
is
why.
yeah. And what is it about that pain that's so hard to face? It is really interesting because I've talked about it briefly on my podcast that some of the hardest things about having a podcast that is really triggering to people is that they want to listen to it because it is valuable and they learn something that is helping them move forward, but it's also triggering. So they're kind of in this mindset of like, oh, I have to set aside like time to listen to it because I want to be more intentional and ready for the feedback, essentially, which is also a way to either avoid or put it aside. You're aware that it's something that needs to be addressed, but it's hard to invite yourself to get there. And I get it because it is hard. And a lot of people struggle with it. And that's why I tend to really emphasize on the bravery I believe that people have when they really dare go into that really vulnerable space, because it is scary to people and scarier than most people understand.
Yeah, and the more we avoid it, the more life will actually expose it. Very often in life, what we fear, subconsciously sometimes, the most happens to us on the outside. And then boom, everything that we've been suppressing finally comes to the surface. And that is a good opportunity. Finally deal with it, feel it.
Yeah. Yeah. It is the only way to deal differently the next time too, when you can address it, and also to recognize that every emotion on the spectrum, whatever it is, we're all capable of feeling them. I think we're meant to learn how to navigate them.
Yes.
Pain is uncomfortable first and foremost, yeah, it can, like, it hurts, but it's mostly discomfort that we're not yet familiar with.
Yeah.
And just as happiness is not permanent, so is not the negative emotions. And there are ways in which we learn to self-regulate when we encounter those situations again. We don't get better from avoiding it. We
No.
can only overcome it by facing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So true. Yeah. For example, some men are not comfortable with their aggressive side. They've never raised their voice. They've never been aggressive. Oh, that's an invitation. Look under the hood. Like,
Yeah.
you're not meant to go through life like that. And other men have struggles with being emotional. That again, something has happened there. Something's been locked. Something's been suppressed. That's an invitation. When the trigger, so to speak, comes, you need to allow it, almost like welcome it. Let it trigger you. Let's see what comes out.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that was a really great way to wrap it up. Is there anything we haven't talked about yet that you want to talk about?
I guess because we talk about very deep topics, and I have written books, even that book that I gave you, that's not for everyone. That is for someone who is very intentional, studying masculinity, and I want to know more. But that's not for everyone. However, I was working in a place called the Phoenix Project where I was struggling. I said, some of these guys, vulnerable young people, they would never read a book or something. I want to write something short, something practical to give to them.
Yeah.
And I wrote a tiny little, look how little it's called, Rise from the Ashes. And it's so practical. And this is just about 4 steps how to really get out of, how to resurrect your life just in 1 hour a week. Like 4 steps, 50 minutes at a time. So I would recommend anyone that's not, almost like this is an entry level into inner work. Because step 1 is what we said, deal with your inner pain. If the world triggers you, don't put it in the world, don't argue. Go and just see, what am I feeling? Express it, see where it leads. Step 2, it's reclaim your inner child. You lost something growing up. I lost many things, but then I've regained them in my 30s and 40s. And it's like, makes me feel alive. It helped me eat less, helped me drink less. It's incredible. Without actually having to deal with these addictions, it's just literally some symptoms just go away as you become more yourself. Step 3 is, what was step 3? Step 3 is, shift your mindset. Because when things are not going well, it's, that's horrible. It's just a bad day. Things bad. Find one thing to be grateful for, just one. And keep saying, okay, look at the sky today. Okay, things are happening. My body hurts. My back hurts. It's like, I don't have money. But I open the curtain. It's like, wow, that's a beautiful sky today. Thank you, God. And it's and it changes you a little bit. And so dwell on that. Be grateful. And step 4, now take one step into the desired future. Because who would you be if no trauma ever happened to you? You
Right.
would be someone different. You'll be
Yeah.
braver, stronger, more outspoken, more
Yeah.
whatever. Okay, well, you can still be that person.
Be that
But
one thing you always wanted to be.
take one step. Maybe apply for that job that scares you, or approach that person on a date that scares you, that you wouldn't normally, because that's how your brain learns. Oh, that's my life. I belong into that world.
Right.
And so then that's the book, basically, just a very, very practical and
Yeah.
very.
Thank you so much for everything that you do. It's so great. I really admire it, and I appreciate it when people have gone through real hardship and have reflected on their journey and taken all of that all of that experience into practical tools. I think that's really great. So thank you so much for being on my podcast. I really appreciate it. And yeah, I would love to stay in touch with you, and I would love it if you could share with my listeners how they can also reach you if they want to learn more about you or access your books. Do you have a website, or how can they reach you?
Yes, thank you. I do have a website called Men's Corner, so menscorner.co.uk. And my books, you can find them on Amazon. The good thing is about my surname is that if you type it in Amazon, there probably isn't another person with the same surname. So
That's true. That's true. I'll also make sure to include all of the clips in the description below so they're easy accessible from there too.
thank you so much. This has been.